Hello and welcome to this first video tutorial on IXP Manager, where we're going to look at installing IXP Manager using the automated installation script. Hi, I'm Barry O'Donovan and I'm the project manager and lead developer for the IXP Manager project. You're very welcome. These video tutorials are new for the project. This is the third one I've done. In fact, this is a re-recording of the first one that we did, where the sound wasn't great and the video and the lighting wasn't great. These are, as a disclaimer, and because this is the first video that you will come to, I just want to give a little bit of an introduction to what we're doing here. And the purpose of these video tutorials is to try and provide additional support to help exchanges starting or moving to IXP Manager, to make that process as easy as possible. And we think that one of the ways we can do that is to create these video tutorials where we actually demonstrate how we, the people who've written IXP Manager, do the installations and use it on a day-to-day basis. Also, seeing it done in reality is a lot different than reading a bit of documentation. So hopefully being able to see and flick through these videos to whatever part that's of interest to you will be useful to you. This is, as I said, this is a re-recording of the first one I've done. And what we'll do over time is we'll re-record some of the older ones as well to keep them relevant and current and to make sure they reflect our modern advice on how to install and use IXP Manager. We'd certainly welcome your feedback. You'll get the project on Twitter at IXP Manager. You'll get me at Barrio79. You'll find us on the mailing list, and you'll get all of that information on the IXP Manager website. So let's look at installing IXP Manager for the first time, and let me share my screen with you. And what we have here on the browser is docs.ixpmanager.org, which is the official documentation website for the IXP Manager project. And what you'll see here on the left is we have this installation group of documents. And this first series of videos will really concentrate on the installing and initial setup and the post-installation steps that you have to take to make IXP Manager useful. What we're looking at today is the automated script. This is a script that we wrote when we realized that, and quite fairly, that people who run exchanges, the main skill set they need really is network engineering. Using the LAMP stack, the traditional Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. So using an application like IXP Manager that is written in the LAMP stack isn't necessarily a core skill for everybody. And some people were tripping over some of the installation steps, and they're running into issues that for people who do this day in, day out are quite easy, and you don't consider that when you're actually writing documentation. So the video process here hopefully will help show people exactly how we do this in real life, and it might make that process much easier as you go forward. So the automated installation script in the documentation page doesn't actually have a lot of documentation. The reason for that is you click through to our page on GitHub where we actually have those installation scripts, and that's where you'll find the steps that you need to take to use these scripts, and it's also where you find the scripts. Our recommended platform for IXP Manager is Ubuntu. And the reason that we have settled on Ubuntu is while there are a number of different Linux distributions where IXP Manager will work, and in fact FreeBSD or any of the other BSDs as well, what we found is that Ubuntu have a fairly quick release cycle every 6 months, but we actually recommend you go with the long-term support versions, the LTS versions, which is every 2 years. So that's why you see here on this web page, you see 1604, that's April 2016, 1804, April 2018, and 2004, which is April 2020. So it's the LTS versions, but also with Ubuntu, the ability they stay quite current in terms of PHP, which is the language in which IXP Manager is written, but they also make it quite easy to install later versions of PHP on older distributions of Ubuntu. So it's definitely an easy way for us to stay current in terms of the technology we use in developing IXP Manager. And we hope, because it's based on Debian and it's one of the most popular distributions of Linux, that we hope that makes it quite comfortable for our end users, the IXPs that use IXP Manager, to install and maintain it. So as we scroll down here, we find IXP Manager v5 on Ubuntu LTS 2004. That's what we're going to look at here today. We expect that nearly everyone who installs IXP Manager in modern times are doing it on a virtualization platform like VMware or Zen Server or KVM or XCP-ng. XCP-ng is one that we've started using lately ourselves quite routinely, and it's based on Zen Server. It's an open source fork of Zen Server, taken from the point in time when Citrix turned it into a commercial product. So it works very well. You can see that they have 100,000 downloads. It's been stable for a couple of years now, so it's quite good to use. And as I say, it's something that we use routinely. For the purposes of this video, on my own desktop, I'm going to use VirtualBox. So VirtualBox is from Oracle, and it's a very nice free virtualization platform for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And on this, I'm going to create a new virtual machine. And I'm going to call this IXP Manager video tutorial. I'm going to date it, so if I find this myself in a couple of weeks, I know it's safe enough to delete. The type that we're installing here is Linux, and we're doing version Ubuntu 64. These options actually don't really matter. All they do is create some sensible default configuration settings for the virtual machine in VirtualBox itself. I don't think it has much relevance really for anything else. I'm going to give it 1 gig of RAM, which is absolutely fine for what we're doing here. In production, we'd recommend 4 gigabytes at least. If you're going to be a larger exchange, go to 8 gigabytes. In terms of disk space, again, 10 gigs is fine for this demonstration. In production, we would recommend 40 gigabytes. And we'd also recommend you use LVM, which I'll talk about as we're doing the installation process, so that you can grow that over time if you need to. So I'm just clicking through some default options. As I say, you can bounce back and just rewind the video and have a look at any of these if you need to see them again. But I'm just accepting the defaults from VirtualBox at that point. So now I have my virtual machine ready to go. I just need to do a couple of quick settings. One thing I want to do is VirtualBox uses its own private NATed address space. I just want to put this on my own local area network here, so I'm going to use the bridged adapter. So I'll just get an IP address from my own LAN, and it'll look just like a host on my own internal network. I also want to attach the Ubuntu ISO. So to install Ubuntu, I had to go to ubuntu.com. The web page may obviously look different, but what we want to do is we want to find somewhere to download Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. And I'm not interested in the desktop version, I'm interested in the server version. So I clicked on this here, and then I just clicked on download. And when I did that, I ended up in my downloads folder. Let me attach here, choose a virtual optical disk file. So from my downloads folder, I've got this Ubuntu 20.04 live server amd.iso. So that is now attached to my virtual machine CD-ROM drive. I'm going to click OK on that. I'm going to start up my virtual machine. So again, if you're doing this on VMware or Zen Server, the process will be pretty much exactly the same. You set your VirtualBox parameters, the disk space, the memory, the number of CPUs. In terms of CPUs, actually, probably give IXP Manager 2. So 2 cores, 2 CPUs, two virtual CPUs. It's just a web application that doesn't get an awful lot of web requests. So 2 CPUs is more than enough. If you find it's laggy or anything, you can just add more to it down the road. So our Ubuntu installer is currently just booting up here. Looks like it's nearly there actually. While it's doing that, what I'm doing for the most part is following these instructions. What you'll find is when you come back to this page, when you're watching the video, is I will actually have updated these to reflect what I'm doing here because the installer has changed slightly in 20.04. So I just want to make sure that the instructions are correct. So I'll update those once I've completed this video here. So select my language, English for me. My keyboard layout is English UK, and I am on a Mac. So I'm going to pick that guy here, and I'm done with that. Now we can see here that it's done a DHCP request, and it's got an IP address on my internal network, which ends 140.54. I'm just going to make a note of that 54 for myself, so I know what to SH into in a second once this is complete. Otherwise, I'm okay with that. I'm not using web proxy, so I'm going to leave that blank. I'm going to use the local Irish mirror, which is pre-found, obviously based on my public IP address. For the storage, so what I had recommended to you, in fact, what I might do is let me continue on with this, and then while we're doing the install, I'll talk to you about how you might lay out your hard drive in a production environment. For the virtual machine here that I'm doing the demo on, I'm just going to use the entire disk, and I'm going to move on with it. Did that work there? For some reason, I don't think it did. Use entire disk and done. So done. Are you sure? Yes. So for my name, I'm just for this, I'm going to give it IXP Manager, my server's name, IXP Manager, username. So obviously always pick a secure password. I do absolutely want to install the OpenSSH server from the start so I can get into this machine once we're up and running. I'm not going to pick any other packages. So the installation script assumes you're starting from a bare bones Ubuntu box. It shouldn't actually make that much difference if you did install some packages, but for us, we're going bare bones here. So this is now installing IXP Manager on the virtual machine. What I did want to talk to you about was how you might lay out a hard drive in a production environment. So what we would normally do is we would allocate a 40 gigabyte hard drive to IXP Manager, and then we would install LVM on that, the logical volume mapper. LVM is a Linux, I guess you call it a virtualized file system. LVM is quite routinely used in production server environments. And what it allows you to do is it puts an overlay on top of the hard drive. And through the installation process, when you pick manual install in LVM, you would create a volume group, and you would assign the 40 gigabyte hard drive to that volume group. And then you would create some logical volumes. So one of the logical volumes might be for swap space, where you might give it somewhere between 1 and 4 gigabytes. The second logical volume would be the root file system, just slash. And you would give that possibly 10 gigabytes. That is where your logs and your operating system files will all reside. And then for IXP Manager, we would typically put that under /serve, /srv, and give that the rest, about a 30 gigabyte logical volume. For most productions, that will be absolutely fine, and we shouldn't need to increase the disk space. But in bigger exchanges and over time, we may need to give more space to either the root file system or to the IXP Manager file system. And with LVM, we can just attach a new hard drive to the virtual machine through VMware or Xen server. And then we can add that extra hard space to the volume group, and then we can grow the logical volume. And we can do all of that. So I'm just going to click on reboot here because the installation is finished. We can do all of that without causing any production downtime. So my system has rebooted. I hit enter there, kind of got hung up on something. I'm not sure what it was. I just hit enter. We're now booting up into the installed version of Ubuntu. So let's see how we get on with that. As I say, this is the first time I've gone through the Ubuntu 2020 install process in the way that they seem to get you to do it. So I just hit enter, IXP Manager. There's some stuff still happening in the background. What it's looking for now is my password. The last thing I had was a password prompt. In fact, let's just hit enter on this and start this again so you can see it. IXP Manager, and my password. Now I'm logged in. So let me go to root. Okay, so let's look at my file system, disk free. So you can see there my root file system is 44% in use. It's about 10 gigs. That's fine. Let's check my IP address. So 192.168.140.54, which is what I had by DHCP. Let's see if I have network connectivity. I do. That's brilliant. And let's see if I have DNS resolution. And I do, which is excellent. So I have everything I need really to start installing IXP Manager. Now, using the VirtualBox KVM, the login as you would on a physical display is really clunky because a lot of my keys don't work, copy and paste doesn't work, and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go to my shell, and let me place that somewhere where you can see it. That's absolutely fine. Sorry now. Okay. So let me see, ping 192.168.140.54. So there's my virtual machine. So I'm going to SSH as IXP Manager into that. Great, here I am. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to open a second terminal as well. You'll see why I do that later, so I can watch some log files and things like that as, sorry, I didn't use the correct username there. So let me go in as root again. Great, and go in as root here. So I'm logged in here. All I really need to do here is get the raw version. So I'm just looking at raw here, and this is the raw installation script. So I'm just going to take that. Is curl installed? It is. So I'm just going to copy that file down to my local. Oh, it did it output. So curl. It's a curl. Is wget installed? It is. That's easier. Okay. So wget sticks the file here in my home directory. It's a bash script, so I'm going to use bash to run it. Okay, so here's the IXP Manager installation script. Welcome. It's reminding you that this is IXP Manager version 5 and it's to be installed on Ubuntu LTS 2004 only. It should only be run on newly installed Ubuntu system if you do not meet this criteria, so get out of it because it might create some damage. Now, if you want to follow the progress, open a new session and as root tail this file. So that's what I want to do in my other window. So I can watch what's happening as we do this, and I can talk you through what the script is doing. So press return to continue. So updating local package repository, it's doing an apt update. Now it's doing an apt dist upgrade. So doing a full system upgrade to ensure the latest packages are installed. Now that actually happened during the installation process, so we were pretty much there already. The locales thing that it does here is done because there's some odd bug with the password. The way we set a random password as part of the installation process, and it just seems to using the locale where I was developing the script seem to make it work. Long name of your IXP. So if this was INEX, for example, that would be either INEX or Internet Neutral Exchange Association. For us, some city and exchange point. I'm going to just take the default. Again, for that could be INEX, it could be LUNAP, it could be links, whatever. SCIX is fine here. So we just had this set up that we can just press enter through it to move fast. Country, whatever country it is. AS number. This shouldn't be the AS number of your root servers. Your root servers should have a dedicated AS. That's come up in the mailing list a few times. It's come up at forums like EuroIX, and it's something you can certainly ask us about. But the AS that we're looking for here is, for example, the AS of your management address range, where you might host your mail servers and your web servers and things like that. It would also be where, for example, you might run your root collector. So for INEX, that would be 2128. Here we're just going to use a private address that's prompted, your peering IP address, your NOC. Again, this all just sets your IXP's identity for the configuration file and for some of the data fill in the UI. You can change all of this later as well. So none of this is set in stone. My name, I'm just going to put in IXP Manager. So you put in your own name here, email. I'm just going to leave that there for now. IXP Manager, sorry, beg your pardon. So now it's installing a huge amount of packages. It's installing PHP, Apache, the MySQL database, MRTG, and a load of other stuff that we need to run IXP Manager usefully. So that's going to run through there. Hopefully that won't take too long. I have a fairly good connection here. It's downloaded all the files it needed already, and it's already going through the setup process. The script sets some defaults, it sets a MySQL root password and all that, and we find all that at the end. The script will tell us what it used. So we're running through all of this. So now what we've got to is we've done all of the installation of all the packages we need. We're now cloning IXP Manager from GitHub, and what it's cloning is the release v5 branch. So the release v5 contains the latest IXP Manager version 5.x.y release, plus any hot patches that will be part of the next release. Release v5 is considered production safe and production ready. So now it's installing all of the PHP dependencies that we need to run IXP Manager. So IXP Manager is a PHP project. And for example, it uses a PHP application framework called Laravel. So that would be one of the dependencies that we're installing here. As we're on GitHub here in the web browser, just while that's happening in the background, sorry, I beg your pardon. So if we look at IXP Manager and we go down here, we'll see a composer.json file. And that lists all of the dependencies. Okay. So that's kind of like a package.json file for NPM. We're still installing all of these. There's quite a few of them, and each of those in turn have their own dependencies. This all comes from packagist.org, which is the PHP package repository. For example, the library that we use for SNMP is this Open Solution / OSS SNMP library. And we can see that's got nearly 8,000 installs. Does it tell us dependence? No. I was wondering if there was a link here that would show us that IXP Manager, for example, requires it. Maybe that's not working. Maybe it's not available. I don't know. Okay, so a few things have happened there in the meantime. In fact, it's finished in the meantime. So what happened there was we were running the composer to install. Then we generated an application key, and if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can see it in the manual installation video, which is the second video in this series. We created the IXP Manager database and the views and the initial database entities. We did some database seeding, so we did some kind of data population of what's in there. We set up Apache, and then we got congratulations, your new IXP Manager installation can be accessed via, and it gives us. What it did here, just so you know, is it found the first non-loopback address. So what you might get there might be a little bit different. So here's our IXP Manager installed, the SCIX, which is what we went with. And let's see if we can log in. So username is IXP Manager, and it's telling us that our password is this randomly generated string. And excellent, in we are. So here is IXP Manager. Let's just take a quick look at some of the other things that the installation script did. One of the things it did is it told us that it installed MySQL, and it set the root password to this. So let's pop over here, do MySQL root, and give it that password. There we are. Show databases. Okay, and there is IXP Manager. And let's do a select star from user. So there is my IXP Manager user with the name I gave it. There's my bcrypt encrypted password. The email that I didn't change, I just took that default one, and then some other bits of information. So there's quite a lot of tables in here, 76 to be precise. So that is the IXP Manager database that was installed through the automated installer. If you plan to use this in production, you should edit the .m file. So that's the runtime configuration that IXP Manager requires. Let's have a look at that. So under serve, which again is where I said the automated script install IXP Manager, we have an IXP Manager directory. Let me just put that up there for you like this. And in that directory, this is where the Git clone came out of, and this is where all of IXP Manager exists. What's really important in here, or important to be aware of from the start, is that there are two directories that the web server will write to. One is bootstrap/cache, and one is storage. And in storage, for example, you'll often ask if you have a bug with IXP Manager, we'll say, can you show us the logs from storage/logs/ there are no logs yet because there hasn't been any issue. Can I force a log, I wonder? I don't know how to write it. If there's errors in storage logs, you'd see a laravel.log, and that's what we'd be asking you for. So in here, there's a .m file. And the .m file, what that does is it sets parameters in the config directory. So if we look at config/app, My God. I must update my installation script to install Joe. Joe is my editor of choice, and the first thing I always do when I install Joe is I disable the backups because I hate seeing all of these tilde files lying all over the place. So if we look at config/app, you will see in a lot of places this env directive and app name, and you can see IXP Manager. So if I look at .env, you'll see, or you should see app name. Is it there at all? KF. Not found. That's a Laravel default, which maybe isn't in use here. Let's take I'm just having a look here to see if I can find something useful. Site name. So this would be perfect. Let's add in XXX here. And if I come back to the browser and refresh, you can see that that's updated the site name up here for us. You go away. So that would exist in identity. Sorry, config/identity. I'm not going to go too much into this. I just want to give you a quick overview of some of the very basic elements of this. And you can see inside an identity, we've got site name, and that takes this env parameter identity site name. And that was set in the .env file by our installation script. If we didn't set it, you'd get this very gaudy config identity in .env. So that would just be a pointer. So in .env, we've got things like the app key. We've got things like the app URL, app debug. If you have any issue with it, turn on debugging, set that to true, but don't do it in production. The time zone. So for us, this would be Europe/Dublin. Sorry, I think it's this way, yeah. And even I'm confused. And again, you'll find we've got a link here where you will find all the accepted time zones. So for Europe, it's Europe/Dublin. Perfect. All the database connection details. This password is different to the root password, of course. It's just a specific password for the IXP Manager user. And various other settings that we will get to over the future video tutorials. Is there anything else that is suggesting? Secure your server with an IP tables firewall. You should absolutely, of course, do that unless you've got some kind of firewall fronting the web server. Install an SSL certificate, which you should also absolutely do, of course. Complete the installation of many features. Tell us, yes, so we maintain a list of users of IXP Manager. We have a map to show them. So please do tell us. We ask you to please email operations@inex.ie with your full name, short name, city, region, country, GPS. We're also building a new site where we'll have a form to allow you to do that as well. So absolutely, please do tell us if you're using IXP Manager. It really helps to know that there's other IXPs using it. It gives us more motivation as well to keep developing and supporting it. And then the last thing it tells you is if you're happy that the installer has been successfully completed, you should remove the log file and some of the settings that were done at the start. And a copy of this message is always available. If I go into my home directory, you'll see this file here. So it's recorded all those details. That file should be readable only by root, which it is. But again, you should record those details somewhere securely and then delete that file as well. So as I say, what we have here is IXP Manager 102.16, sorry, 0.54. IXP Manager fully installed, ready for the next steps. Those next steps, by the way, will come from docs.ixpmanager.org, and it's these post-install steps. And because I'm re-recording this first video, you will actually find those post-install steps on our channel, IXP Manager. Let's see your channel. On this IXP Manager tutorial 3 initial steps. So that's going to talk you through those next 6 steps for installing IXP Manager. So again, I do hope that this was useful for you. Let me just throw back up the title screen again. You'll find IXP Manager's website, ixpmanager.org. You'll see us on Twitter @IXPManager and myself @Barrio79. Again, please do tell us if these were useful. Please do tell us if there's some specific videos that you want, and we'll add them to the list. And I hope you find the next steps as easy as hopefully you found installing IXP Manager using the automated script. Thank you very much.